All right, so welcome everyone. Good to have you here. Also welcome to everyone listening to this online. Now today's topic, I would say maybe to take the topic of mental tension today. So we all know what physical tension is. You know it pretty well. Yeah, physical tension, you go to have a nice massage, and then physical tension is also a little bit, you do a little bit of exercise, practice some yoga, and physical tension slowly dissolves with good food, enough sleep, proper exercise, and so forth. And then of course, if you get older and older, there is always some part of physical tension. It's the suffering of old age, isn't it? The older you get, the more natural it is for the body to break apart and to experience more physical tension as you did when you were younger. That is normal, it's okay. But mental tension, this is something that's altogether completely unnecessary. And it's basically arising from resisting what is. To put it in simple words, yeah, you're resisting this moment. You resist what is. Then in that moment, immediately there arises mental tension. So for example, there are 6 things that you could resist in this moment. You could resist sounds. Like let's say you're hearing a sound outside, as we just did, someone lighting fireworks or whatever it was, or someone screaming. That if you have stronger mindfulness already, you can notice that there is a sense of contraction upon hearing that. If that contraction is very sudden and fast and violent, we call it shock. It's this kind of, you're in a peaceful state and all of a sudden, bang! Then it's a violent contraction of energy. You directly feel. Also a violent contraction of the mind around this thing. This is what we can call holding. You're holding something. It's almost like grabbing something. It's the same thing. Your hand is closing around the object that you're grabbing. And then it can close around the object that you're grabbing with various degrees of pressure. And depending on how long you hold it and how strong your grip is, that's the type of pain that you will experience. If you're holding on to something for a long time, like let's say you're, give you any example, maybe like you just, someone just looked at you in an unpleasant way. And you keep contemplating that. You keep thinking about it. This is, you're holding on to this. You're holding on, you feel as if you were the thinker first of all, so you are already trapped in thought, fully identified with it. You're not aware of thoughts anymore. And so you're thinking through this kind of issue, like, why did he look at me like this? And as a result, pain arises, and that pain is felt as an emotion. And the longer you're holding, the stronger the emotion usually becomes. And for many people, when this emotion reaches a peak point, it is so unbearable, the pain in the body is so unbearable, we seek to express it. And expressing our emotion, then very often it seems to be like a temporary, it feels almost like you release some of that internal tension, that internal fire, particularly in case of anger. It's like you're burning on the inside. You really feel like you need to say something now, and then when you say it, it feels like a relief. Some of the heat of the fire seems to disperse, it seems to go to the outside. This is an energetic sensation, you can actually feel that. Next time you're angry, have a look. See, observe it. I'm not telling you don't get angry, you can't. You will get angry, for sure. Many, many more times. And each time you do get angry, it's an opportunity to understand the energetic nature of anger. What is happening? How does it arise? What just happened? For most people, it's past, right? The anger has already arisen, it's already burned, and maybe you have already expressed it. So the fire has kind of spread. It has changed the house. First it was just your house that was burning. Maybe it was just like a little fire in the dining hall, and then it went over to the living room, and suddenly the whole house was on fire, and then there was a wind, speech, and it went over to the next house. And so your words then make another person also angry, because it's anger talking to anger. It's an energetic thing. When an angry person talks to you, they don't talk to you, they talk to your anger. Because anger seeks, it's how do you say? It seeks itself in another person. It feeds on anger. Anger feeds on anger. If you have two angry people in the room, then it quickly goes out of hand. It's not just a fire, it's just explosions. And if it doesn't stop, there will be, one of them will die. Or maybe both of them. This is anger. Yeah? If it just keeps going, it ends in death. If you're really, really angry at yourself, it ends in suicide. Now, some people physically hurt themselves when they're really angry. I did that when I was a little bit younger. I would hurt myself when I'm very angry at myself. Like I would take an incense stick and put it on my hand and burn it into my hand and stuff. Still have somewhere, I think, the scar of it. Yeah, here. It's almost gone now, but yeah. It's kind of a reminder of the madness and the insanity of identifying with emotions, identifying with thought forms. Hurting yourself. Some people punch a wall. Bam. Some people punch into the mirror. They want to hurt themselves. You've seen it in movies probably. Maybe you've seen it live. Maybe you did it. Anger seeks to burn everything down. Whatever it comes into its way, the only purpose of anger is to burn it down. Burn the enemy down and burn myself down, burn my breath down, burn my delusions down, burn my distractions down. It's all manifestations of anger. Anger itself is rooted in fear. Every single time. Every form of anger arises from a deeper underlying sense of fear. Being scared of loss, for example. Being scared of loss of control. Not being in control. It's scary, and then what we feel helpless, and then this helplessness very often turns into anger. You're powerless. Well, you can't do nothing, so might as well just shout and like this. So all these emotions that we feel, very strong emotions sometimes, like from old things that we went through, sometimes it's like old traumas and so forth, they all need the fuel of thought. And not only that, it needs you to identify with thought first and hold on to thought first. And if you're holding on long enough to a thought, the corresponding emotion arises. And if you're really habituated to it, it is not requiring you much thinking for an emotion to arise. It might just be enough to hear the voice of the neighbor, to see the neighbor's face. Pop, there it is. Feeling happy, feeling angry. You're just seeing your friends. And whoop, you're already feeling happy. If I see my best friend, for example, I'm immediately going into a funny mood. I feel like joking around. Immediately, I'm in a light-hearted mood. This is because we are habituated to a certain emotional or thought complex, like a pattern. If you're totally habituated to that, it comes easy. If you see something that particularly speaks to your fear pattern, you get angry immediately. Let's say you see injustice. For some people, injustice. I can't stand injustice. It's so unfair. Mm-hmm. And whenever they see that injustice, immediately activates what they have been trained in for many, many times. The thought and anger. Injustice, bam, and they feel the emotion immediately. Whereas if it's something new for you, something that doesn't happen all too often, like someone looking at you in a weird way, or saying something inappropriate to you, you might not have that very often, and then when it arises, you kind of have to think about it a little bit before you feel the emotion of uncertainty, fear, and then finally anger. It takes a bit longer for you to kind of get up to the level of a full, like a mature emotion, of not mature, but a fully blown emotion. So when we are going through these kind of emotional and thought patterns, again, it requires this kind of mental tension around a thought. And this is where we need to practice in this point. So we need to learn to recognize thinking. That might be images in your mind that you're dwelling on. It might be words, sentences, or just sounds. It can be, for example, the memory of someone snoring or coughing that comes into your mind, and you feel the corresponding emotion if you're holding on, if you're dwelling with that thought. For example, for me, personally, I can't stand coughing. I don't like when someone coughs. It's really weird. I know it's totally inappropriate, actually. It's like that poor person is sick. And my response to their illness would be a feeling of anger. Like it makes me kind of really agitated when I hear someone cough. I had that for a long time. Now it's much better, because now I have trained myself to allow people to cough mentally. I don't have to go up to them and tell them, hey, my friends, feel free to cough. But mentally, I kind of have to do that. Mentally, I have to allow, give space. Many people say giving that space, or allowing it, allowing someone else to cough. It might not be coughing in your case. It might be sneezing, hearing people sneeze. Makes you go up the walls, maybe. Or just seeing plain stupidity in front of you, like someone behaving like totally mindless or stupid or something like that. And yes, I know it's improper to judge and so forth, but yeah, we're human beings, so there is judgment in the mind too. We all have it, so why hide it? It's there. Might as well just be honest about it. And the other day I went with Pan in the car, and there was this, I think it was like Korean tourists or something. They just were crossing this big street out there, and they stood in the middle of the road, and they were waiting, and they were looking at us in the car as we came. They were looking straight at me and walking in front of the car, and I came quite fast. And we could just swerve around them. Like last second, they would have walked into our car, while at the same time, like looking at our car as it came approaching. There was something for me. I was like, how can you be so stupid as walking into a driving car? They must have been asleep with eyes open or something like this. So here there is judgment in that moment. It's combined with shock. Yes, there is shock, then it gives rise to anger, fear, anger, judgment. It's not about blocking that or saying, oh, I shouldn't have judged those poor guys. I'm not a good spiritual practitioner. You're still judging, right? So in that case, it's about bringing in awareness, a little bit more awareness. Just maybe noticing while you are judging that judgment is going on. If you can do that. Maybe awareness kicks in afterwards. Great, it kicks in. It comes. Awareness is on the rise. And it will come more and more into your life. And it will also flow more and more into kind of heavier emotions, more difficult emotions, into places where there is more mental tension. But in the beginning it will arise in kind of seemingly insignificant scenarios. Maybe you're just sitting on the loo, or you're taking a shower, or you're brushing your teeth, or you're having conversation with someone, or crossing the street. Boop, there it is. Suddenly there's some mindfulness. You remember that there was something like meditation. And suddenly you're mindful. You feel as you walk for a few steps. That's great. You want that. This is, it's like slowly becoming more in your life. It's growing. It's almost like your personality gets more and more leaks. And through those holes in your personality, mindfulness flows in occasionally. That's great. You need your personality to become a sinking ship. And in the beginning we start with very small kind of holes in the ship. Not much water is coming in, and sometimes something blocks the hole, and then the water doesn't enter the ship anymore for a little while, and it opens again. Then the hole becomes bigger, the flow of water more continuous. Like this, the mindfulness is coming into your life more and more. You allow it to come in. To come back to the topic of mental tension again. Now, if you're holding on to thinking, whatever you are contemplating, whatever thought, it will lead to pain as soon as you're holding it. Either it's experienced as subtle stress, discomfort, unease. And if you keep dwelling on it, it becomes more uneasy, more uncomfortable. So we need to learn to drop thinking, to give that space, to allow thoughts without holding them. So basically they're just kind of passing through, like a wind is passing through a room. The room is not holding the wind at all. Just one window is open and another window is open, and the wind can just pass through. But as soon as you close one window, the wind comes in and then it's stuck in the room. So both of your windows need to be open all the time. So all the thoughts can just keep passing through. And when the thoughts are not finding any point of collision inside of your being, there's no more point of holding, then they keep passing through faster and faster. They become more, the sensation of that is that your thoughts are becoming more irrelevant. You don't care. It's just thinking. Like that. Just another thought. That's a very good sign. You stop taking thinking seriously. That's a first sign that your grip on thought is releasing. You're actually starting to release thoughts. Kind of the first sign is you're not taking them seriously anymore. They're not weighing you down that much anymore. And if they do weigh you down, you immediately recognize it. How do you recognize it? It feels unpleasant. Tension. So that is immediate feedback after a while. As soon as you're feeling unpleasant, you know you're holding. You're holding something. Future or past. Thinking. That's all that future past is. It's thinking. It might be a subtle sense of striving forward. When does he stop to talk? I know that already. It's boring. That is thinking. You're striving. You want to be somewhere else other than where you are. Holding. Suffering. Pain. Right there. It's feedback. Each time when you're hurting yourself, it should actually make you wake up, no? Because, I'm hurting myself. It's totally unnecessary. I don't have to do that. And then you respond by allowing yourself to be uncomfortable. Because otherwise you're holding on to the discomfort. I shouldn't be uncomfortable. How do I let go of this discomfort? That's another form of holding. Allow. Open up to the way it is. So now you're uncomfortable. Can you allow yourself to be uncomfortable? Not only is it very spacious and relaxing, it's also very kind. Like if someone comes and approaches you and that person is really angry at you, stop trying to make them not angry. They're angry. Can you accept their anger? First of all, first step. Just accept that they're angry and they are free to be angry. They're allowed to be angry. But the mind, if you notice, it says, no, they should not be angry. But they are angry. But for the mind, it's, but they should not. And that's the suffering point. That's the holding. You're holding on to the thought that the way it is should not be like that. It should be different. I should feel differently. So it requires your kindness to allow yourself to be the way you are. And in that spaciousness, all the tension can slowly, over a long time, for some people, it can release. It can go away. But you kind of have to learn that you don't have to be scared of yourself. Because very often we approach ourselves from a very tyrannical viewpoint, with a lot of shoulds and should nots and how I should feel, how my emotional life should unfold, what I should be thinking, and how my life should be. And so your whole mental, emotional body is basically scared of you. It's scared of that little dictator, that ego that wants everything to be perfect all the time. And that most importantly doesn't recognize that everything already is perfect. It only thinks that things are not perfect because things are not the way it wants them to be. And do you see the conflict? I say the world is not nice because it doesn't appear the way I want it to appear. I say that I am a loser or I'm a bad person because I appear to myself not the way I should be appearing to myself. This is the point of conflict. You are the way you are, period. Can you leave it? Can you take your hands off? Just leave yourself alone. Give yourself a breathing time. That is ideally meditation, right? You're not harassing yourself. You're not trying to be more peaceful. You're not trying to be perfectly focused on the breath. That's the light-hearted part of meditation. That's why you're not suffering the practice. You're okay. Everything is fine. The problem is just in your head. That's the good news, isn't it? It's just the tension, the conflict with the now. Just thoughts. Leave them. They're unimportant, unreal. Just thinking. Stuff in your head. Who put it in there? Who filled your head up with ideas? Feels like it's me. No, it isn't. It isn't. You walk out there on the street, all the signs by the road that you see, they have an imprint on your consciousness. And you're not putting it in there. Thinking about toothpaste and soft drinks, the brands that come to your mind, you're not putting them in there. Sitting in meditation and thinking about, I don't know, songs or something, you're not putting them in there. You've heard them somewhere, and it just sticks. Your whole personality is not made by you. It's a big relief, actually, to realize, like, what you consider to be very screwed up, like my screwed up personality. You didn't make it. You're not maintaining it. And you will not be the one that makes it go away. Once you realize that, it will go away all by itself. Because you're not nourishing it by identifying with it. It's just a conditioned phenomenon, like any conditioned phenomenon. There's nobody that needs to make those flowers blossom. They just blossom because all the causes for them to blossom are complete. There's water present, there's air, there is light, and so that's what the flower does, it blossoms then. And so your personality is the same. The mind is the same thing. It does what it does because there are causes. Like you hear fireworks outside, shock is a result. It's not made by you. You see someone almost run into your car, shock is a result. It's also not made by me. Judgment afterwards is a result. It's also not made by me. If you realize that, you realize not self. That's what the Buddha calls not self. This is not me, it is not mine, it is just a condition. That means you're releasing all tension. You're disidentifying from whatever you see. You have no more business with it. You're not here as a control freak anymore. You don't need life to be a certain way because it's like this and it's okay. You're not having any beef with the way it is anymore. That's what we learn. We're coming from a state where we are fully in resistance to this moment, constantly mentally somewhere else, to a state where we are able to accept this fully, no matter what is. Like the saying of Krishnamurti goes when he was saying, "Would you like to know my secret?" after many, many years of teaching, and everyone was like, "Yes, I would like to know your secret." And he says, "My secret is, I don't mind what happens." That's such a cool statement. And it indeed is very cool. Only someone that's very cool can say something like that. I don't mind what happens. That's the state. That's where it's at. You're not minding whatever happens. So what is it that happens? Now you might be tempted to think, yeah, life happens. Maybe if in American you're anti-Trump, you say Trump has happened. But that's not what happens right now. What happens right now is sound, sight, smell, taste, feeling, thinking. That's it. That's what's happening. Many times if you ask people what's happening, they will come up with what just happened and what might happen. Not with what is happening in this very second. We don't see the moment. That's the point, isn't it? We have a story of life. Tell me a little bit about your life. Then stories come. Many people in the retreat, I've mentioned it over and over and over again, so much so that I have now a room at the retreat in which I do consultations, and in that room I have a sign that says the name of the room, and it says real life. There's so many people who come to the retreat, they would say things like, yeah, this is a retreat, it's a bubble, and then I come back to real life. And what is real life for those people who speak about real life? It's always something unpleasant, something hard, the grind, city life. That's real for them. But that's not real at all. It's a thought. In that moment we don't realize just how much of a thought it is and how it ruins the time at this beautiful retreat in which you could actually relax. But instead you think about quote-unquote real life, ruining real life, disturbing yourself when you could actually relax. It's like you work very hard many months of the year, so you can come and you can afford a holiday at Phuket to do a retreat. Then you're at the retreat and you worry about quote-unquote real life. Come on.
So many people here that took their vacation and they spend half of the vacation and say, I'm soon going back.
Yes,
No,
that's the point.
life,
Yeah, I will go back to my real life. This is holiday, you know. I had that when I fell in love with Pan first, and then came back home, and then people were like, yeah, you know, this, you've been on holiday, and you had all these emotions, and of course, you will feel like this, you're young, you know. Now, wait for real life to happen. Once you move to Thailand, and then real life will start. And then what they mean by that is, look, once shit is happening, that's real life. Wait for it. Soon you will suffer. But that's real life.
When you grow up.
Yeah, when you grow up. Oh, you will... Now my grandmother, she was an expert at that too. She would always say when I was like 5 years old and I was just not preschool, I was just playing in the garden, I was building castles and fortresses with blankets, all that kind of stuff, and I loved it. And she would always say when I came back from playing outside, she was going, ha, now you can still enjoy yourself and enjoy life, but soon, she'll say, life is getting serious. And so that's the attitude I had when I came to school. She said often enough. And when I entered school, I hated it to the point that I was kicked out of school when I was 16. I failed consistently at school to the point where I was kicked out. That's it, no more school. I didn't make it in school. Big failure. It's just I couldn't fit in. It's not just coming from the conditioning of my grandmother. It's also coming from what I now consider a blessing. That this kind of education is not why I'm alive. This time around, I'm not here for this kind of education. That was when I first entered the monastery. There was a different kind of education, just as hard. I had to learn Tibetan language, reading, writing, debating, and so forth and all that, without any problem. That was learning for hours and hours and hours every day in front of books, and I didn't fall asleep because it was relevant for me. I needed this. It was the first time anyone in my life told me, actually, you know, Tobi, I would like you to think about death. Contemplate death. You will die. And I was like, oh, finally, someone is making sense. Yeah, seriously, it was like coming home for me. Because back at home, everyone was like, you don't need to think about that now, and just learn, and then you will have a job, and then you... And for me it was like, and then I will be like all the other adults that are hanging around me, unhappy, depressed, serious, stressed out to the bone, looking forward to 2-week holiday, that wasn't my dream. It wasn't like, no, I don't want this kind of life. And it went to the point, I didn't see any alternative when I was younger. I didn't see any alternative. For me, it was just school, or, as my grandmother taught me, sleeping under a bridge. So it was just these two options. So I wanted to commit suicide, and I tried 2 times in my life. I actually went out, and I almost did it. If it wasn't for my best friend to come, just appear in the right moment and kind of pull me out of it. But for me, it was no alternative. It was like school, career, success, office, doctor, lawyer, or under the bridge. And since I failed consistently at school, I didn't want to live under a bridge. And now I would love to show my grandmother, look at this bridge. It's good. I love what I do. I love my life. I love who I'm with. I love these evenings. It feels so highly relevant and meaningful to me. And if it wasn't for all the other things that preceded that, then it wasn't like this. So very often in life we have so much tension around stuff that is unnecessary. But in a way also necessary. You have to go through this kind of painful experience so you learn, you grow from that. And if it's not in this life, it'll be in the next life. For some people, they're not ready at all. For them, it takes a few more lives. They need to suffer a bit more until they have enough. It's like, that's it, I don't want to do this anymore. Round and round and round and round and round again. I'm tired of it. Then you need to come to that point. When you come to that point, wow, you will receive this stuff with open arms. There will be no alternative for you. For me, it's no alternative. I'm honest with you. For me, it's no alternative. It's this life, that's it. It's all about meditation. And I chose it because I have enough. I don't need more of the stuff that the world is about, I love this world, I enjoy it. I enjoy my senses. I love playing with them. I love good food. I love watching movies. I love having fun, joking around with my friend. It can be very silly. I love this kind of stuff. But I have enough of making myself suffer. So that's my kind of push, why I'm doing what I do. And you will come to this point too. When there is something that clicks and then, meditation turns into the most important thing in your life. That will happen all by itself. Just keep looking. It's already happening. For all of you who are listening, already happening. You're already on the way. You're already waking up. It's already deepening. It's good news. Very happy. I had to learn that. The first kind of mental school I was raised, in the monastery, it was a very fearful kind of teachings. If you're not making it this life, you might end up in hell and stuff like this, yeah. Tibetan Buddhist cosmology and all that. Very scary, a lot of fear-based kind of inputs for practice. You know, you have to practice now because otherwise you will end up a spider in your next life, crawling on the temple grounds, and you have to be good, be a good boy. And so I learned to practice because I was just really scared of the future. And now slowly I'm unlearning that. It's like, if I'm scared of the future, I'm certainly far from peace. And if I'm practicing motivated by fear and stress, what will I cause for myself? More fear and stress. I've seen it over many years. It's quite a neurotic tendency that I built for myself. The Tibetans, they don't do that. They're very playful about it. It's just very often I found that the Westerners who come into this kind of new culture, they perceive it like that from their Christian background very often. Oh, you're a sinner and you might end up in hell. And that resonates with the Westerner's mind very often. And resonates with many people in this kind of very tense way. They become very serious about this kind of stuff. The lightheartedness goes very fast, it goes out of the system, and we take our religion, and I'm a Tibetan Buddhist. It becomes this very serious thing for people. It became for me like very serious too. It weighed me down. I'm quite confident that when I would have met the Buddha and I would have told him that I'm a Tibetan Buddhist, he would have laughed. Well, you're a Tibetan Buddhist? Well, it's another thing to let go of, isn't it? Yeah. Oh man. As soon as I let go of that, there's peace. It's that simple.